Good. So, I guess just talk about what you.
Okay. So, hello everyone. My long good friend Julianne came to me and mentioned that for the Rotary Club meeting, she wanted to bring a little bit of outside education in. My name is Shia Goldberg. I'm the general manager here at Prime Cigar, and we're going to make whiskey and brown spirits and cigars a little less intimidating. I think it's important to mention also, since you are a networking function organization and also a business organization, that here our clientele is predominantly executives, directors, business owners. So I think a derivative benefit of this is going to be the fact that this is actually a key closer for a successful business arrangement as well. Let's get right in, shall we? So basically, and the reason why I did this is, the general rule of thumb is the darker the cigar, the stronger it will be. So we started with the Davidoff Signature 2000. This is a wrapper tobacco that they call Connecticut. Basically the original seed strain and the growing region is generally adopted in the name. So while this is still grown in the United States in Connecticut, you will see Connecticut tobacco that is now grown in other regions, but generally it's always going to be the mildest of the strength spectrum. And then also, basically three of the more prominent companies in the industry are Toro Fuente. This will be a medium-bodied cigar. Also, based on the shape, it's a shorter smoke for you commitment-oriented ladies and gentlemen. This is about a 30-minute cigar. And finishing out with a Nicaraguan cigar from a family called Padron. This is definitely going to be the strongest cigar in the rotation here. So similarly to spirits and wine, I think both of them are an excellent analogy for tobacco. There's something for everybody. So the idea is not you need to be comfortable smoking everything. The idea is you find what is enjoyable for yourself. And really nobody can dictate that for you. A good tobacconist, their job is to make sure that you're enjoying what you want. So more than general knowledge, I was kind of more interested in softening the blow. Cigars can be a pretty intimidating thing for people when they're either interested in or just exploring it. So we're going to do basically a very simple tutorial just designed to make you all more comfortable. The foot and the head of the cigar, the foot will always be open for the most part, and the head is closed. So the first thing that you will do with the cigar is, with the cutter, or somebody will cut it for you, there's a cap line. So the outer leaf of the wrapper basically holds the entire construction of the cigar together, and at the very top of that wrapper they put what is called a cap. So the idea is to cut what is essentially the least amount of tobacco off the top of the cigar, so you make the passageway of air open without destroying the integrity of the construction. So I'm going to just turn so you can see now that the inner tobacco is exposed just like it is on the foot. Now you can breathe through it. And the next step will be lighting the cigar. Now, by the way, cutting the cigar is something that is generally very intimidating for people. Obviously, I'm a little comfortable with it, but that is a very simple step. Do not overcomplicate it. Cut the least amount of tobacco off, make sure you can pull through it, and you're pretty much set. Lighting of the cigar is a little more specific in nature, especially with these lighter, more delicate tobaccos. You want to make sure that you're not scorching that leaf, because you will taste, I think the best way I can explain it is like an overcooked steak on the grill, where it's mostly carbon, mostly char. So you're going to use the flame of the torch, but as you will notice with the butane lighter, and I'll turn it so the camera can see, the cigar is nowhere near the flame, and it is still igniting the tobacco. So you want to keep it far enough away where you're really controlling that heat. And then basically I'm just going to slowly rotate the cigar so the heat of that torch is hitting basically all sides. On the outside, I like to light the outer edges first. And then you just bring it full circle so the cigar is fully lit. And then I will show you in just a moment, there's a trick at the end of this, which is when you think the cigar is fully lit, and by the way, the complete lighting of it initially is very important because it will make sure that you don't have to adjust or fix the cigar as you smoke it. But basically, I'm going to blow into the edge of that cigar and it will turn orange. And then the smoke will come out basically straight from the top. That's how you know the cigar is fully lit. This is the simplest part now, is smoking the cigar. Think about this like you would a glass of red wine, where you're going to want to draw in the smoke, chew on it, as they say with red wine, let it roll around on the palate, but then also you're going to expel it. So the major difference between cigar smoking versus literally any other kind of smoking that you can do is you're not going to use your lungs in any way, shape, or form. One of the ways I like to explain to people is if you think about like a thick milkshake through a straw, it's all cheeks. So hold on to a little bit of the smoke, allow the palate to kind of absorb the flavor profile of the tobacco, and then you just let it go. Now, the reason that we have these brown spirits here in front of us is most premium cigars are aged. When a cigar comes off of the factory floor, it usually needs some time to rest and settle in, much like a bottle of wine or a whiskey. Brown spirits has been my preference with cigars and pairings, but I will tell you, you can literally pair almost anything that includes non-alcoholic drinks. Coffee, whether you like sweet, milky, or black and strong, also goes very well with tobacco. So again, this is an opportunity to really explore and play with your own style and your own preferences. That being said, especially with stronger cigars, barrel-aged spirits, the wood and the tannins that you pull away from the barrels play very well with tobacco. I also will tell you that when you think about pairings, I usually prefer them in a kind of a binary form, which is either complementary pairings or contrasting pairings. So for example, we'll go back to this Davidoff here. It's a pretty mild smoke, very creamy, flavorful, but soft. So on a contrasting side, you think about something like the Macallan Edition No. 5, which has spent a little extra time in a barrel aging process in, if I'm not mistaken, both new and used French oak. Or on a more complementary side, the Don Q Gran Reserva is a rum from Puerto Rico, which is also barrel aged, but has a natural sweetness to it. Don Q, as a rum company, does not add any sugar or molasses after the fact. So it brings that natural molasses sweetness from the distillation process, but they don't do any caramel coloring or any sugar added after the fact. So it's sweet without being overwhelmingly sweet. One thing that I will say is, for most people, an intense sugar or sweetness in a spirit will overwhelm the flavor of the cigar. Scotch whiskey and American whiskey, I would say, are definitely the two most popular, which is the reason that I elected to bring this single barrel Four Roses into the mix. This is a Kentucky straight bourbon. The single barrel gives it a much less complex, and I mean that in a positive way, barrel aging process. But then I wanted to throw some odd anomalies in the mix. So this is a Japanese whiskey. Usually has a completely different characteristic than American or European whiskeys. Japanese whiskeys, in my opinion, tend to be either a little more floral or a little more grain focused. The pure malt has almost a coffee and cocoa kind of back finish, definitely more grain focused. And then Campo Veda, this is a very unique tequila. First off, it's an incredible tequila in and of its own. But Campo Veda is actually finished in red wine barrels. So it has an extra añejo without the overwhelming sweetness. It is a very smooth finishing tequila. Most people would not think to pair tequila, especially with a mild cigar. And I will tell you, with this spirit, you can put it with anything, but definitely with that lighter Davidoff, that's a good way to go. So the other thing is very important, I think, is just to have fun with it, be playful. If you go into a place like this especially, but really any cigar lounge where they have spirits as well, there will be somebody there to help guide you. And once you start to understand what your preferences are, the fun is bringing those together. So thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I have been able to share this with you. And a special thank you to my friend Julian once again for putting this together. And we hope to see you next time at the meeting.